Thank you.
I should have said Paul Guilfoyle and his shoes.
Yeah, my shoes come in before I do. But I want to say it's great to be in the company of actors. I realized I spent most of my life in the company of actors, a lot of time, and really enjoyable time where a group of people, like-minded, can get something done with the singular principle of trying to seek the truth or the variations of that. And so I feel very comfortable being with you guys, actors, people, members of SAG. So, okay, see you later.
Well, does that mean then the fun part? I mean, you can be excited about getting a role, you can be excited about preparing for it, but does that mean it's most fun when you finally get to the set and you're just around other actors?
You know, sometimes preparing for it is not fun at all. Sometimes getting the role is like, root canal, but the preparing for it too can be kind of a singular, lonely understanding meditation, really, which is nice. But therefore, it makes the getting together part, the fun of doing it. That's when it becomes fun, when it's with others. Because it's like tennis. So you can hit the ball you want by yourself, but it's not tennis until there's someone else you're hitting it to and hits it back. Right?
Well, so, okay, so with Marty, I mean, he seems like a guy you could have played.
Ouch.
He seems like a guy you could have played a handful of ways because there is this kind of mysterious quality to him. Is that true, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, mysterious is a loaded kind of word, Robert, but I mean, I know what you mean. Maybe complicated, maybe something that you didn't see, that, maybe something you didn't expect. And that was the challenge, I think. Someone asked me that earlier. I think working with Taylor, who's here, by the way, Taylor Gray.
Taylor Gray.
Fantastic. He was sitting in the chair. It says reserved. I guess he was expected to be here. No, thanks. Good to see you. But the working with Taylor, that over time that we developed a relationship of kind of caring. It starts off with an idea that you just I need something to get something done. This is a guy who's a man of action, man. This was the greatest thing that I realized. Eric Aronson is here too, as well, the writer and director. Yeah. To create a very, very simple line, you heard it in some of the words, we're going to rob the bank and we need your help. I mean, there's no half measures to that. That's what I need to get done. These are Taylor in the scene says, "I'm sorry, do I know you?" And I go, "What are you sorry about?" This guy takes every single thing in an existential, straightforward, moment-to-moment life. So that was the really good discovery. So I think what you mean in mysterious is that when those feelings became kind of complicated in terms of a relationship that I started to care about someone, then the immediacy had a different kind of pause inside the interstices, as we know as actors, of the intention of trying to do one thing, clearly and simply. You kind of feel the obstacle, as an acting term, in the middle of the time you're trying to get something done. And that made it, I guess, mysterious.
Well, it's interesting because I would clarify further. He is scene present, but past mysterious.
Ooh. Well, I think maybe we should all sit in a lotus position now. I mean, somebody should get some incense going because it's getting very heavy. No, I know what you mean, and that is true. That is that's the drive. That's the thing you work your whole life trying to do.
How did the role come to you?
You always have to be chosen as an actor. It's too bad because, geez, maybe I'll do Willie Loman today. Maybe Uncle Vanya. I'd like to play that one. You can't just go out and choose it. You got to be chosen. So, and because of the work I did and friends I made and kind of, those two things alone, really. Friends I made and the work I did. Someone brought me to Eric, who was a friend for 50 years that I worked with over time. And we fall in, I said about him, Jan Eagleson, his name is, and really good director and great actor too. And I said we were like two old pirates, we'd talk about distant harbors. I mean, we really were on the same level. And so he knew and liked Eric, and he was really determined that I be chosen. And he kind of manipulated the whole thing, and Eric came on like and came and saw that light and said, sure, let's, because it's a big deal to be chosen. I like to think of myself as a Krugerrand, but I'm not. I mean, I don't bring any money to a movie. So for Eric to choose me, it was all purely as an artistic choice. And that's something I hope that we all get to share as actors, being chosen for your artistry.
When you get chosen, do you look forward to conversations with Eric about the role, or do you kind of prefer your own process? Or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, you're right. It's a combination of both, of course. And yeah, it's a combination of both. But, when you're on the same wavelength, that conversation is like having a brother, or a sibling, I should say, excuse me, for genderizing it. But having another person, a relationship that you can just rely on to tell the truth.
So who was Marty to you when you read it, and how did that evolve as you got closer to filming?
Wow, I'm going to have to get my therapist in here, because these questions.
How did that make you feel?
Yeah, gee whiz. That's exactly what you're asking me. So the question was, what did I feel?
Yeah, what was Marty to you on the page when you read him?
Well, I mean, I grew up in Boston. I mean, that Boston accent wasn't fake. I grew up in Boston and left it, of course, because it was a little parochial and a little bit mendacious, parts of that I grew up in. But I did know it. I do know it like you would know, like you know a country road that you lived on. You'd know the turns in it. So I knew that part. And that was so I knew characters who were like Marty, people who really, and I said this to someone else who was talking about it, there's a class struggle in Boston, not as sadistic as in London, but it's left over from that, where, the Boston Brahmins, used to have a sign in the 1920s, and it would say, Irish need not apply. Irish around back. A little beautiful sign, by the way, beautifully made in New Orleans, of fleur-de-lis. It would say Irish around back. And my uncles, older than obviously, would really be pissed off at this whole notion. And so they decided to get as smart as they could and went to school with the Jesuits and got really, really educated. And then they were trying to get, and then there was a mayor, James Michael Curley, who literally tried to kind of just fight back with more money and brains, fight this class struggle. And so that's left over, and that's in this movie somewhere. Eric knew about it. He was picking, some guys did it really with blunt force, like gangsters. And this guy, Marty, did it with a different kind of, intention. And it was kind of creative, He liked art. He knew somehow about art. Eric pointed out that Marty Lyons was an expert in samurai blades. By the way, you don't call them samurai swords, for those of you who are uninitiated. Samurai blades, and the hamon of the blade, and all of that is in the movie in one scene. But he gave me a couple of books when we first met. I went like, wow, it's about 700 pages about samurai. Blades, I guess I better learn these. So I as a good student educated, I did learn as much as I really needed to know about the samurai blades. It's only in one scene. So these guys, this is part of it. I hope this is a long way of answering your question, but this is part of who Marty was. He's a guy who knows a lot about a lot of stuff, and he's in the suit of a kind of a gangster. But although he tells you not, he's in the suit of a thief, and the existential thief.
So it's 1990. It's based on a true thing that happened, the Isabella Stewart Gardner. True-ish. That's a great word. Can you talk about combining what was real and what is kind of invented for this in terms of who Marty is?
Let me see if I understand what you're asking. It's like it's 1990 Boston, and there was a real event.
Yeah.
And then you have a kind of a close-up understanding or look at the people who were part of the crew and the movie. Yeah. Well, I think that is kind of what we were trying to show at the same time. We were kind of more interested in the relationships that were developing. In the 1990 situation in Boston was more or less in the French style of, Truffaut and in Godard. It was like in that situation was in the background. In the foreground were these relationships. I'm sure that became obviously clear to you in the movie. So yeah, we were trying to juggle all the elements, but give them priorities, give them positions, more positions as you would give to someone in a painting. So you would have perspective, and the perspective that we were going for was the perspective of the human perspective of these guys, which is why, I'm here talking to Robert. We're talking about the mystery of having two conflicting intentions at the same time.
It's interesting. Like Marty is somebody who notices everything. I made up scene present earlier, but he's very like upfront everything because he notices everything. And I'm just kind of wondering.
That's
actors are like that way too, I assume, right?
That's very insightful. That was the goal. We've said it. That was what we're trying to do.
Talk about what you're doing with your eyes, because it's very intense when you're noticing everything. Your eyes are doing something, and
yeah. Well, I think my eyes are hopefully showing what do they call it? The window to the soul, because soul is you want to be aware always of your super objective as actors. You know what you really want, and you don't have time to be taken away from that. So there's a strong commitment to that part, and so whenever that, I can have fun and play around and be sensitive and feel and know what's going on, but I don't want to get off track of what I need and want, and that's what the character was doing at all times.
Physicalizing Marty, how did you arrive at like what he was wearing, like the way he moved and stuff?
Johnny Imbrez, he's a nice guy. He's we had Taylor will talk about this too. He can confirm this. We had a lot of wardrobe fittings, and Johnny was really good. He really found old clothes. He did a lot of repairing of clothes. He found stuff. He was always working on what we just talked about. Person who had sort of dueling objectives, that he had people dressed extremely well, and he got a whole list of great vintage clothes and stuff he liked, and he was very excited when he found something, and very, very particular about it. I loved working with Johnny. We would have 12 or 13 wardrobe fittings with him. On Johnny's other side, he would never be able. I guess he does work in television. He was never there with the right clothes at the right time, or the right day, and make sure everything matched and all that. And I came up with an idea too. I said, Johnny, I think I want to steal a scarf off somebody before I go onto the stage. He went like, I love that. He always was always enthusiastic about using. So there was lots of people who work, as we know as actors, who support the work we try to do as actors with a great enthusiasm and are really right in sync with what we're doing. That's always a cool thing. I see a friend of mine. How are you?
So, okay, you get to the set and you have to do scenes and talk about working with Taylor and what you guys kind of worked out together as the relationship between Steve and Marty.
Yeah, I wish Taylor could have a secret microphone and talk about it, but this way I get to tell Taylor everything that I experienced with Taylor. No, what a great, he was a great guy. Our relationship kind of almost developed the way it developed in the movie, that we got to know each other. We were kind of, coming into a movie, as you come into something and then you develop it as you go along, and it gets it's on the right track. We get us deeper and deeper into a trust. So that was really that. I think that shows up in the movie.
Oh, one of the unusual and wonderful things about the movie is that for a heist film, it felt like it was also kind of a coach-student movie. It had that quality to it.
Yeah, I don't really yell at him though, like coaches yelled at me.
We have a screwdriver at one point.
Oh, well, that's true. I'll put a screwdriver into his aorta, but that's more like a surgeon, and a bad surgeon.
How would you describe Marty's method of coercion?
I think we just touched on it. He lets you know that the circumstances, everything is pretty intense underneath the surface of this play, of the playfulness and the existential craziness and the chaos. There's a violent undercurrent to this whole game. And the stakes will come out, and you only need to know them once, and they're not repeated. So that was clear. And then you could have, sometimes you've seen movies get drill on that all the time, and then it loses its sort of value. It's like in this particular stock of the world of violence, you don't get away with, if you do something bad to somebody, a screwdriver does end up in your aorta. So that's kind of what I'm glad we have that in there, and that's the only time I really threaten him. Other than that, I'm like calling him up drunk from a bar, and I know you're scared, that kind of stuff. Marty has a sweet side. It's usually when he's drunk. That's unfortunate. That's a part of the Irish character too.
It is interesting because the screwdriver is more threatening for some reason than when you're showing him the blade. The blade feels like a communication moment.
Yeah. The blade. Yeah. Well, I'll ask Eric to bail me out. The blade was our first day. I think that was our. It's hard. That was when we were just trying to learn about how to. We don't. In independent cinema, which we've all worked in, I'm sure. You can't get everything right on the first day. You barely get through the first day.
Well, no, I mean, you've been in huge studio projects. You've been in, Best Picture winning films. You've been in, obviously, a huge TV show.
They don't have first days, those guys. They just throw them away. They start again.
And you've been in the most frugal of indies. And I'm just kind of wondering how each situation, the big movie and the small movie, kind of impacts what you do as an actor.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, the ability to communicate becomes a real process, as we know. The bigger the movie, and you already first of all check out what's my call. Oh boy, I'm number 5. Okay, I can handle that. Well, I remember doing something. I'm number 155, and the call sheet, and they say, well, I've said this to the AD. And well, there are 372 people in there. I said, wow, it was some television show I was on. I went like, but 155, I'm never going to get anybody to pay attention to me. So there is a hierarchy in bigger movies,
Does that mean it's nice being number 1 on this, or two?
It nice being number 1? I think I should get the T-shirt that just says, "Is it nice being number 1?" And I'll give it out to everyone.
I mean, is there a certain pressure though, because it is an indie film? It's time is of the essence.
You know what? It is true. There's a certain, but if you just do what we were talking about. Thank you all for being here on a beautiful summer day. Thank you. But what we've been talking about earlier, if you just do the work, what happens is everybody then wants to do the work too. If you're number 1, they take their lead from the guy. You just feel it. Now the communication becomes effortless. And so people are looking to be kind of like, get the gestalt, get the vibe, pick up the vibe from somebody. And they look to the dude as number 1. Now, if that person might have his process that he has to stay apart. I mean, I know actors like that, and that's respected, and that's a good thing. So I know that at least this guy is serious. He's an artist. And the same thing happens if you're gregarious and you kind of share a lot, and if that's part of your process, that's good. Then the whole thing becomes a shared. It's amazing how much is. It's like you're the guy on the playground as the little kid, but you have the key to all the baseball bats and all the footballs and everything. You have the key to that little cement block little room that has all the sports equipment. You're like they know you have the key, so to the fun. And also to the dedication to the work, and then it gets shared in a beautiful way, really. I mean, it's so positive, and we all felt that. I think we can say. I only invited people here who would agree with me, by the way. So, yeah, that's another secret about being number 1.
What was the most unexpectedly challenging part of this role, or making the movie?
Well, the movie itself had challenges that I wasn't aware of, and that's okay. That's my job. So the challenging parts that I've found were just the simple, small ones, just the effective way to make sure we're all on the same page and to work to get, sometimes to stay in the area where you're a feeling instrument, not intellectualizing, not creating any, which is my own issue, not creating too many flourishes or paradigms of thought, but just really staying in a feeling space that you could rely on, the instincts that you have. That was the secret that I've learned, and it's especially fun to do what I usually do is you could easily point out, I'm sure it's on your list, that I've done a lot of movies where I play parts. I do a job and I'm there to sort of kill it and bill it. And I do some work and I try to get as much. And you don't have a lot of paints to work with, or you don't have a lot of material to wear. So you have to get in and out and create a character. But when you're in a lot of the movie, that takes care of itself. Some scenes can go by where you could probably take a nap. I mean, not the work part of it, but you could show the guy just taking a nap, and you go, oh, he's taking a nap. And then, it's just all part of our, it's a bigger fabric. It's a larger tapestry is what I mean, where usually I'm just there to just sew some red thread into the tapestry.
Yeah, it's almost like if you called Marty a criminal, that would kind of be diminishing the character, because there's more to him than just calling him a guy who's a criminal.
Yeah, and it's obviously that's who's doing the calling. I mean, criminal is only, he makes it very clear in the car, I'm not a gangster. Gangsters like sheep. I don't have to answer to anybody. He's very clear that he's a singular guy. He's an independent, like independent cinema. So he's on his own. So he doesn't want to be called a gangster, or maybe even not a criminal. He thinks this is going back to that class struggle, that where people feel that, I deserve this. This has to happen to shape these people up. He steals the samurai blades. He said, and there they were, sitting in the basement. No one even knew what they were. So of course I'm going to take them. The idea of taking them isn't the radical part for him. It's that he knows more than they do.
It was fun getting to see you sing. Talk about shooting that scene.
Oh yeah, well we did a lot in the bar that day. I know I'm talking to actors who've been in this experience. So there was in independent cinema, you don't have the location very long, and the guy who runs the bar really wants to go back to selling stuff you'd sell in the bar, not like wait around while people pretend to pour beer out of a tray. Anyway, we were there. That was where a lot of the movie was shot, and we had to do it not in a very short order of time. So another thing you learn from working in TV is you learn how to be economical. So we were able to get it done, I think. And so that did take, it was a few long days, but we had to, we went with whatever happened. This spirit of whatever happens, happens. I mean, would I like to sing that song again? Yeah, I might like to sing it. I'd sound a little bit more. Or, go, really? I'd like to, but of course then it would have sounded too much like I was like a singer. I don't know. So I'm glad that whatever happened. We just took what we had.
I mean, does improvisation have any role? Did it have any role in this movie, or were you pretty much going with the script? No,
we would always check in. We obviously with the writer and director, and Eric had a really good vision, and he had a strong script. So we would check in with each other about like maybe we could put some stuff in that we would be able to that would elucidate the moment. I mean, some stuff that like the wide shot walking up the courtroom or something. Nobody's gonna. Why don't I talk? I'm building a relationship, so I would talk to him about being open and curious and self-actualized, and tell him, you don't even know what I'm talking about, do you? It's such a wide shot that we could throw in some. And Eric keeps this stuff if it's usable. He's very distinctive about this. Eric, there's some other stuff that I really liked, and I would even made a plea for it to be in the movie, but Eric goes, no, Paul, that would make it too easy. And I went away thinking like, oh, great. But he was right. Eric was right. It would make sometimes the manipulation would sometimes, if I did this scene, I had to do with Johnny Cash's guitar that I stole out of the Johnny Cash Museum, and I give it to Steve, and it's not in the movie. But, I just drop it in his lap. And I love the idea that I just dropped it and he caught it, and I said, it's yours, And that was like another way to kind of commit him to the team. But Eric was right. That made it too easy. I couldn't have too many of those.
Marty is such a font of advice, and it always feels like it comes from a place that he knows it. But I'm kind of wondering, in your case, is there advice you got early on in your acting career that's kind of stayed with you that you've always been able to rely on?
Wow. Geez. Again, we're back to asking. I try to give long answers so I don't have to hear the next question. Jesus Christ, I thought we were done with this. Do I have to keep going? Yes. Maybe one-word answers is good. No. Yes, Robert. Jeez. No. Al Pacino is a good friend of mine, and I learned a lot working with him. I learned a lot working with David Wheeler, a great director who taught at Harvard and it's ART, and ran the theater company in Boston. He was always interested in exploration. Always keep exploring. Never do the same thing twice. This is in the theater mostly. Also, and Al, we rehearse this play that we turned into movies and plays we did. We'd rehearse all the time. I realized that, we rehearsed for like 8 months, and we would do scenes if we were having in a coffee shop. He'd break in and we'd do pieces of scenes we talk about. We rehearsed as we ran a big show, the Basic Training of Pavlo Hummel on Broadway, and we would rehearse every day at 4:00. And anyone could direct. Would you like to direct today, Paul? Yeah, I would. We have a little problems with these scenes. I mean, we would work on the stuff all the time. I thought that there was more inspiration involved. Inspiration for a young person means I just need to be inspired. I'm inspired, let's go. And no, it was really hard work. So I learned there's hard work involved. And there's also exploration is the idea to keep going. Keep going. Exploration and hard work, that combination was a nice cocktail to learn young.
All right, this is going to be an easy one. What
Oh,
was it like to film in Boston? I mean, to be back home essentially, making a movie there.
Yeah, I mean, the parts of Boston we saw weren't the Charles River and in the regatta. You know what I mean? We weren't like going off to the Boston Public Library and looking at the rare books. We weren't even having really good dinners anywhere, except with Eric in the rehearsal period. So the Boston we went to was really the Boston that I remember as a little kid when my father said, "Don't ever go in there." And I looked at this place in South Boston. It was a tavern. And it's called Triple O's, by the way, if you want to know about it. It's a Whitey Bulger's hangout in South Boston on Broadway. And the windows were so tiny, they were about as big as the microphone, and there were only 4 of them, So the place was constantly really dark. And I thought to myself, I was about 6 or 7, and I thought, why the hell would I ever want to go into this place that has no windows? I don't get it. I said, "Sure, Dad, no, I'm never going to go in there." "Yeah, don't ever go in there," he said. And said, so yeah, that's a good thing to remember. Don't ever go in a window. So that's, luckily, when I met Eric, now we have to go in these places that have these windows. That's where we shot most of our stuff, is in these bars that have no windows. So did I like going back to Boston? No, I'd rather go back to the Boston than I really liked, enjoy the Charles River, MIT, the Rare Book Library at Boston Public Library. Yeah, that's where I want to go. Maybe Lock Ober's if it was still open for a martini and an oyster. The Oyster Bar. But no, we didn't go to any of those places. We went to Buzzy's Roast Beef and some other joint. We went to neighborhoods that looked like 1990. We went to neighborhoods that the cars in the street were all from 1990. We shot in 2020. We didn't put any cars there. They were just already there. People were dressed in 1990. People walking on the street, everything about them, their haircuts, their stuff, because it looked like, they didn't realize it wasn't 1990. If you said to them, "What day is it?" They said, "1990. Yeah, it's always 1990. Exactly. Boston has a period of I think if they had a good year, if 1990 was a good year for someone, they're going to stay with that for their entire life. The whole thing, the fashion, the cars, the houses, the couch. I mean, all the furniture was real. There's no Bauhaus. They didn't discover that.
Well, I like to ask actors. I like to ask all creative people this question, but I mean, I assume that every time you do what you do, I mean, something clicks with you, and you realize that I'm learning something new or something different about why I do this and what I love about it. Can you talk about maybe something about this experience that kind of reinforced to you why you're doing this?
Yeah, wow, that's I thought you said this was an easy one. Jesus, man.
That was a Boston one.
Oh, okay. Well, like we all want to be in this business and do the work we do to be successful at it, to have it work. I don't mean successful in terms of money. I mean to have it actually connect. We want to be in this communion. We decided to look for the truth in things and try to express it and, go through the difficulty of all that. Stuff I was blowing through a little earlier, like, find yourself in a singular place and meditative and go be alone in a city and just walk around and just hang out there if you're on a location, say. that takes some, you got to drop out, of life. And so when you do finally work, you hope it all shows up. And you don't know. I mean, if you're going to stay existential and open and curious, you don't know if you're going to hit the fastball or hit the curveball. You don't know if the bat is going to hit the ball. And so it's nice when it does. And it's nice, thank you for witnessing you guys who hung around when it happens. So thanks for being here, for doing that, for me.
And thank you, Paul, for clearly being the only person who could have played Marty. I feel like I could go do a heist now. So thank you all for coming.
We have time.
And the movie opens this weekend, so tell your friends.
Thank you all. Thank you again.